Good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. We begin with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We'll now have a moment of silent reflection, followed by the playing of our national anthem. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. We'll begin with the adoption of our agenda for the regular council meeting for April 28th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Recio-Spagnolo, support by Councillor Burns. All in favor? And that carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none. Adoption of our minutes of the regular meeting of council held April 14th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Segan and Councillor Reynolds, support. All in favor? And that carries. Mayor's comments. It's actually nice having people in here today. We had some great little singers joining us for that national anthem, which was nice. As you may have noticed, the flags are at half-mast today on April 28th as the town of LaSalle observes the National Day of Mourning. The day is marked annually in Canada to remember those who have lost their lives, suffered injury or illness on the job, or experienced a work-related tragedy. According to the Association of Workers' Compensation Boards of Canada, in 2023, there were 1,057 workplace fatalities recorded in Canada. Among these deaths were 29 young workers aged 15 to 24. With each worker tragedy, there are loved ones, family members, friends, and co-workers who are directly affected, left behind, and deeply impacted. Their lives are also forever changed. The town of LaSalle renews our commitment to improving health and safety in the workplace and to preventing further injuries, illnesses, and deaths. For information, the LaSalle Boat Ramp will be temporarily closed this Saturday, May 2nd, for the LaSalle Firefighters Association's 17th annual Detroit River Walleye Classic. Good luck to all participants. And all town-owned courts are open for the season, and fields are scheduled to open on May 4th, weather permitting. Good luck to all participants, coaches, and officials involved in the outdoor sports season. That's all I have for comments today. We don't have any public meetings and or hearings. Our next item is presentations and delegations, and today we do have a petition in front of us, which is requesting an interim control bylaw and site-specific zoning amendment for the Oliver Farms neighborhood. If the petitioner would like to speak, Ms. Perry, you may come forward.
Can you guys hear me okay? Do I have to say where I live and everything? Okay. Can I just go ahead? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Sarah Perry, and I live on Grosvenor. I am here this evening on behalf of Oliver Farms neighborhood in the support of the petition submitted to the town. This petition includes 137 signatures representing 87 households out of approximately 132 homes. This is reflecting a support from approximately 66% of our neighborhood. This is not simply a general expression of concern. It is a formal request asking council to take specific action. The petition requests two things. First, the adaptation of an interim control bylaw, and the second is an initiation of site-specific zoning bylaw review. The purpose of these requests is to ensure that the infrastructure capacity is properly reviewed and confirmed before any further intensification occurs in our area. Residents are asking for a temporary pause, not a stop to development, while the town reviews water main capacity and pressure, stormwater system performance, sanitary capacity, fire flow capability, and transportation and road safety impacts. We recognize that previous analysis has been completed and that certain infrastructure improvements have been implemented. However, the time that has passed and ongoing development and continued concerns within the neighborhood, residents are asking for a comprehensive and updated review to confirm that the system is performing as intended under current conditions. These concerns are supported by both documented evidence and lived experience. Through a Freedom of Information request, residents obtained records confirming 17 water main breaks between 2019 and 2024 within Oliver Farms. These systems are primarily aged cast iron infrastructure that's dated back to 1949. Residents have also tracked an additional 13 water main breaks between 2025 and 2026 based on their direct observation and community reporting. In addition, a flooding study prepared to the town identified stormwater system constraints and provided clear recommendations. The report states, Solution A is most critical in reducing the risk of flooding and protecting the home, which is updating the stormwater system in Oliver Farms. And further, Solution B should not be relied upon without implementation of Solution A. While elements of Solution B, the retention pond and Heritage Park, were implemented and had mitigated some issue, the primary recommendation from the company was Solution A, and that has not been completed. Nearly a decade later, residents continue to experience surface ponding and drainage concerns, raising question about whether the system is performing as intended. There are also transportation and safety concerns within the neighborhood. Streets such as Montgomery have been having increased traffic, including new multi-unit developments and additional dwelling units that have been causing this. This area includes bus stops and a pedestrian connection from Heritage Park to the Parkway Trail system, yet lacks continuous sidewalks. Residents are observing higher traffic speeds and increased use as a cut-through route from the Parkway all the way down to the 6th concession. These conditions raise concerns about safety, particularly as density increases in an area that was not originally designed for that. The town's own official plan speaks to maintaining stable neighborhoods and ensuring that new development is compatible with existing conditions. Our concern is whether the current level of intensification fully aligns with that intent, particularly given that the infrastructure and safety constraints being experienced. To be clear, residents are not opposed to this growth. We understand that provincial policy, including Build More Homes Faster Act, supports increasing housing. This petition is about ensuring that the growth is supported by infrastructure that is safe, reliable, and adequate. We understand that these are significant planning tools. Our request is that council take the first step by directing a comprehensive review and consider these tools as part of that process to ensure development doesn't outpace infrastructure capacity. Through this delegation, residents respectfully request that council adopt an interim control bylaw under Section 38 of the Planning Act to temporarily pause additional residential intensification while infrastructure capacity is formally reviewed, and initiate a zoning bylaw review to ensure future development aligns with infrastructure capacity and neighborhood conditions, and direct administration to undertake a comprehensive review of water, stormwater, sanitary, and transportation systems to determine what level of development can be safely supported in our neighborhood. Ultimately, residents are asking for due diligence and for decisions that align with the town's established planning framework. That infrastructure is verified before it is further relied upon, and that planning decisions reflect both technical evidence and the lived experience in this community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any comments? Councillor Renaud?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation. I will honestly say that I had some words planned, and I think you used most of them with some of the history, because there is a really big history on this. I was elected for the first time 12 years ago, and it wasn't too far after that that we heard about horrible flooding in all of our farms. And I remember going out and campaigning, and people had all their belongings at the road after they flooded out. And then I remember getting on council, and then about a month later, everybody came back because they had another horrible flood, like 2 floods within like 3 or 4 months. So at the time, we asked administration to do something. And they did. They put together the options. And I mean, it was a big deal. We had storyboards in here with all the different options and all the different solutions. And administration did spend some time and money creating the solution, not the overall solution, but the solution in Heritage Park to help out. They also provided camera inspections free of charge for anyone to check their own infrastructure on their going from the house to the road, which normally we wouldn't give for free, but they did that. There were a bunch of things that they kind of packaged together back then to try to help the situation. But the problem really was we have drawings and we have diagrams of what a full build out looks like with all the curbs, all the sidewalks, all of everything. And it was very expensive. We've continued to try to find funding for that project, and we've yet to be successful, but we have in the interim tried to do those extra things to try to help. Personally, I understand that half of this has to do more with planning than it does with the infrastructure, with the new building units that are going into your neighborhood. Um, I would be cautious to like you're asking for us to put in an interim bylaw tonight. I would be very cautious to do that without referring back to my administrative team, because I'm not an engineer. None of us are planners or engineers to be able to say, we're doing this tonight. I need to know what we can do, what we can't do. Also, in the last few months, we are well aware of the water breaks, all of us. We get the emails too. We get more than just the, hey, is your water on? We get them all. And I mean, we understand that Oliver Farms water main breaks this year were unacceptable. In maybe about 3 meetings ago, we went directly to our director of public works and we said, what are we doing? Are we doing something about this? And he said, yeah, we're working on a plan right now to try to figure this out. It'll come at a cost. I'll be back to you. I do know there is work going on in the background right now, but all of the things your ask here is a really big ask that has lots of arms. Some of it has to do with provincial planning. Some of it has to do with those as of rights, how many building units can be on each site. And I understand that that is an upsetting thing, not just for your neighborhood. I watched a planning meeting the other day where it's upsetting to a very new neighborhood in LaSalle too. So I understand the frustration with that as well. But there's only so many things that we can control with those things. So again, I'm not a planner. I don't read every brand new planning document that comes out every day, but I expect my team to. So if there's any more discussion, I'm willing to discuss, but I personally would like to put this back to administration and find out what's happening in the background. I do understand that there have been emails that have gone back between you and our administration in the last 3 or 4 months. We have been copied on those too. We understand some of the answers that have gone back and forth, but I do believe that some of those answers need to be put out into a public forum so everybody understands and they can see what has been done, what hasn't been done. There's things probably that haven't been done, but we need to dig into this and understand it a little better. And I'm open to any more conversation, but I do believe that there needs to be some work up there. The water main breaks are beyond understandable. But you're right. It's I can't even say it's 50-year-old anymore. It's 75-year-old infrastructure up there. Those clay drainage pipes are not doing the job, right? So we understand that, and I'm open to anybody else's suggestion, but I personally would like to see what our administration comes back. I'm not looking to pass anything tonight because I'm not I'm not the professionals. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Capetta?
Thank you, Your Worship, and to the presenter. So one of the neat things about being on council is I share with my family. My wife grew up on Montgomery. So when I showed this to her mom basically gave me the mother-in-law look that married people get from their spouse's parents to say, you've been in our old house, you know what happened there. When you were courting, we talked to you about the problems, you saw them. So for me to you, or at least for my family, my wife's side of the family is very, very aware of what you're discussing. And she smiled as I went out the door tonight, so we still are happy together. I truly understand because I've seen it. And I will never suggest that I've walked a mile in your shoes because I haven't. But the best thing I can do is say that I understand directly. My family understands. And my friend here has said some points that are well worth it. The last time, I always keep track, and I have a book, usually I count. The last time Montgomery was discussed, we had 142 people in this room. And if any of you were here, it was a different mayor, but it was flooding again, and it was the building out of the parkway. So for me, I understand the things that are going on in that neighborhood, again, drawing to the family tie to that street. And I appreciate the work that you've done. And my friend has said it very, very well for me too, is that I really want to make sure that we get this right because we owe it to you to give you a proper answer to all the points that you've raised. And I think that referring it to the senior people here who have proper letters after their name to do it right and opening up to public discussion will not only make sure we get it right, but that we get it right the first time and we don't have to loop back and do it again. So again, when it's appropriate, Madam Mayor, I'm waiting to see how we're going to move. But again, thank you for the presentation. And again, if my mother-in-law was here, she would smile. And thank you for taking care of the house that she raised her children in.
Councillor Segan.
Through you, Mayor Malash. First of all, thank you for your report. I must commend you on the thoroughness of your report. Certainly from my previous life, I appreciate the detail and the references to legislation and policy. So as far as my thoughts on this proposal here, I'm the most recent canvasser, you might say, for the by-election, and I heard loud and clear that the residents of LaSalle, particularly in the older established neighborhoods, are expecting that council does the right thing and address the needs of infrastructure above everything else, including taxation, of course. So I would support anything that administration can come up with in order to rectify some of the issues that are listed in this report. And again, I want to thank you for a very well done report.
Thank you. Councillor Richo-Spagnolo.
Hi there. Thank you for your report as well. There are some topics that you had mentioned that I believe that our administration hopefully will be able to come up with a plan or already in the process of their plan, like infrastructure, sidewalking, sanitary, those things. The dwelling area, that's something that we just really, in my opinion, I can't look into that further right now. But I am waiting for administration to just come with a report back to us, hopefully in the next few minutes, and just discuss this further. But thank you for bringing everything forward.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, thank you for the report. I'm certainly aware of the number of water breaks. I do travel your area. I don't think there's a street out there that doesn't have a water break. The issue that you're coming with, I've had other residents in your neighborhood speak to me about those as well, where one home is now 5 and et cetera, 2 or 3 are, I wouldn't want it in my neighborhood. I don't like Mr. Ford for what he's done. But again, there's not much we can do about that. I believe 8 or 9 years ago, we had the residents when I was on council back then, because I've been elected since 91, and a couple of hiatus. But we put a plan together, put into the government. I think it was about $9 or $10 million we were looking for on that whole area of proper streets, sidewalks, and pipes and drainage. Unfortunately, we weren't successful. Again, I will hopefully in the motion that we send a copy of your petition to, I believe, Anthony Yardy and ask him to support this as well. And administration will bring us some report back. It kind of reminds me on here on Church when we had a whole bunch of 17 or 18 breaks years ago. And it was $1.2 million to replace the water line that the community paid for. We don't have 10 or 11 million dollars to do that now. And so I certainly thank you for your presentation. You were very thorough with it. We will, again, look to administration to give us the guidance that we need to do and maybe research to see if there are any grants. I mean, this was started as a veterans by the federal government, gave each of the veterans a half acre out there or close to an acre to build their homes on septic tanks. And we did it. And today, that's not a very pleasant situation to have. I'm on septic tanks. When we went on Gulfview, when we had no hydro, the basement flooded, just the way it was. And so I certainly know the flooding situation. We've rectified that area with about a $12 million loan that we got for the Southwest Quadrant. And I really strongly believe that we should be doing the same in your area, and we'll support that. I don't know what will happen this year, but again, I would like to see it to come to budgets and to see what funding is out there. And hopefully we're successful with that. So thank you for your patience. I understand exactly. And I don't know how they get so many in that one lot, on that pile thing there. Just, I think there's 5, I think. Okay, I ran out of one hand. I apologize for that error, but thank you again to all of you, and thank you for coming. We like to see our residents come to us because we don't know unless you tell us, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I give final comments, I was just going to see if administration had any guidance or comments to add before we go from here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think council summed it up pretty well, actually. Like, there are a lot of moving parts to this. We have been looking at the capital replacement side of it for a bit now, and really trying to decide or come up with a plan to bring to council on how to go about that. But, you know, there's a lot of other things like the history, there's capital enhancement potential, and then the interim control bylaw. So with all of that, it really will have to become part of one more wholesome report that we bring back to council.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Akpata?
Just a quick comment, Your Worship. I'm just looking at the presented items that are listed. I just want to make sure, because I think I know where we're going. So I guess I want to ask you to administration, can we just please make sure that the items that are listed reason for request are addressed in a very simple format so that when it goes back and forth, these folks can say, I asked for A, here's the response for A. I just want to make sure, I know the reports become very, very in-depth, but even whether it's an executive summary or just a quick point so that when the report comes, these folks can look at it and go, here's what we asked for, here's the response. Just looking for that simplicity, Your Worship.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we can do. I think you've presented something that is, like everyone said, very complex, but it has multiple departments would be involved in coming up with a report to come back. So it is going to take a little bit of time to form a response. However, the good news is that we heard you loud and clear during budget sessions, and administration has already been working behind the scenes to work on some of these things. Some of them are newer, so that's why we're going to have to go back and look at them. But we are already well aware and acknowledge the fact that something needs to be done. You've mentioned transportation, and we're currently working on a transportation renewal agreement or whatever master plan. I'm sorry? Transit, sorry, thank you. Transit study. We've been dealing with traffic calming over the last year. So you do mention, unfortunately, some things that are completely out of our control, which is the Bill 23 and what can be built 3 as of right. We don't really have much say as far as that goes, but administration is going to do their best to provide us with as much information as they can to help guide us through this, to help get everyone through the next little bit until we can come up with a good solution for you. So I think at this point in time, if council has a motion they'd like to put forward, Councillor Reno?
I'm prepared to make the motion. I just wanted to mention one thing that forgot to mention earlier. We have had some solution, that partial solution by making a dry pond over in Heritage Park. Terry brought up a $12 million price tag, which we looked for funding. We didn't have that money, but we actually spent $4.7 million in that park to try to help both, because we could get the most bang for the buck. We could help both of those neighborhoods at the same time. I'm not saying it's fixed everything for you, but what I'm saying is that money has been spent. We did hear you once. We're just looking to maybe move to the next step if we can find a way to do that. So with that, I'm going to read the motion exactly because I tend to get flowery sometimes and I miss things, but I'd like to make the motion that council refers the petition requesting an interim control bylaw and site-specific zoning amendment to administration to prepare a report for council's consideration at a future meeting. And as my colleague asked for, is in that public document to have a point and counterpoint so we understand each issue as it was brought up to us. Thank you.
I have a mover. Do I have support? Deputy Mayor Capata. Before I call the question, Councillor Burns did ask if we could possibly forward this to the MPP as well. Obviously, funding is something we try to get. If that's
I apologize for missing that, Mr. Burns. I absolutely agree with that.
okay. Okay.
Your worship, I will take that as an apology. Thank you, Councillor Reno. And could you add to the motion some sort of timeline that people can expect, and maybe administration can answer that, so that they know that we're going to deal with this in a month, or is it going to take 2 months? Or I just don't want a motion to pass without some sort of a timeline. Hopefully that's amendment.
Before we go that far, I'd like to maybe get a comment from administration, just because this does overlap several departments that I'm not sure how quickly a report could come back. So I don't want to commit to something that is unreasonable.
It will take some time, but I think it will bump up. We'll put it kind of higher on the priority list. Just given that if there is going to be any work that happens, we really need to get going on some of the engineering parts of it. So if that's the way it ends up going, we want to get this back to council in the next couple of months.
Okay, so we have the motion that you read, and then we have the friendly amendment that the petition will be forwarded to MPP Liardi. And we're not going to put an actual time frame on it. Administration's already committed to bring it back as soon as possible within the next couple months.
I agree to that unless there's any more comments by the CAO as to timing. I respect that they will bring it back as soon as they can.
Okay, so I will call the question. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much for the presentation. One comment I did want to make earlier and I forgot to make is we have been trying to get funding, just so you are aware. Unfortunately, a lot of the funding that's been coming to the municipality is for new development, not necessarily for improvements. So hopefully something like that will open up soon, but by sending this to MPP Liardi, maybe that will help him find some other alternatives that we didn't know about. So that is the goal, and thank you very much for attending tonight. We appreciate everyone coming forward, and please stay tuned to come and join us for the update. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, moving on to the next item. We have staff reports and correspondence for council's action. We have the proposed Vollmer gymnasium. No, I appreciate that because it's not easy to come up and do these presentations. So that is great. You do not have to stay. I know our meetings can go on for a bit. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome. But if you have to go, we understand. We won't be insulted. So we'll move on to we're moving into item 1, which is our Vollmer Gymnasium expansion preliminary design discussion. That's, yeah. I think, do I what? So, yeah, we already, oh, no. So you have to register for delegation for any of the things. Just go on to our website. Okay, yes, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Okay, so proposed Vollmer Gymnasium expansion preliminary detailed design, and I will turn it over to our Deputy CAO, Mr. Mara.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight's report is a proposed schedule and preliminary design and detailed design for a expansion at the Vollmer. I'm first going to start off the report by running through what the existing facility is and the current needs. So again, the Vollmer multi-recreational complex was put into commission in 2008. It's a really well-used aspect of the town. It's been a bit of a pride and joy for the Culture and Recreation Department. It currently consists of 2 ice pads, a leisure aquatic pool, and a fitness gym and a couple of multi-purpose rooms. The Vollmer sees approximately 1 million visitors a year. This facility is very successful in hosting large hockey tournaments, as well as very successful in the summertime running our summer day camps. Furthermore, with respect to the Vollmer, the other programs that are held out of there have very high fill rates. Currently, space is at a premium, and there is a lot of lacking space for staff and staff amenities. So tonight's proposal is the next evolution at the Vollmer, and there's needs for more staff and office space and amenities. There's need for expanded fitness gym, a dedicated aerobics and fitness room, and a gymnasium. So with respect to all of those items, a gymnasium will allow the programs and expansion to happen at the Vollmer. This will be offered to our youth right up to seniors, and this will be something that will also allow the day camps to open up more spaces in the summertime. Right now, there's currently a wait list on day camps during the summertime. It's not from a staffing perspective, it's from a space perspective. We cannot accept any more day campers or children in the months of July and August. Certainly without doing that, some families are stuck with how they deal with their children in the summertime. Fitness memberships and an expanded gym, that has been growing over the years, and certainly an expanded fitness gym will increase the user experience and better provide expansion for growth in membership. One of the real key items as part of this is a dedicated aerobics and fitness room. Right now, we do carry out programming with aerobics and fitness, and it's primarily done in the multipurpose room. It serves us well, but it takes use of the multipurpose room for general rentals out of commission. So we can't rent it out for general purpose if somebody wants to have some sort of function there. Also, what happens when day camp is in the July and August, that multipurpose room is used for day camp space. So guess the users of the aerobics and fitness classes are out in the hallway doing the classes. And that has been something that this council and previous councils have heard loud and clear. Further to that, when large tournaments come in, they need that for conveners to organize their tournaments. And so that becomes out of commission. And so fitness classes tend to happen out in the hall. So again, yoga classes in the hallway, out in the open, it's not very comfortable experience for our members. So I'm going to start by trying to share my screen here and talk about the various amenities here. There it is. So again, the proposed expansion is in keeping with the Culture and Recreation Master Plan that was completed last year. And in fact, we were working on this before the Culture and Recreation Master Plan. This has been further enforced with respect to the master plan through public consultation with the community. And the expansion is really estimated at within the next 2 to 4 years to accommodate the growth. So within the diagrams, we've prepared a couple conceptual level diagrams. Again, these are for illustrative purposes only. They are going to be refined further. There are some things missing on here that are explained in this report, and I'll kind of go through and highlight that. But from an overall site perspective, this gives you a bit of the lay of the land, shows you what's existing, what's currently under construction with respect to the pickleball and the parking lot for the pickleball. And then the area highlighted in red is really where the new works are planned to occur. So there are some site works with new parking lots. We call it the back of house works in behind the arenas. Right now, it's a very difficult area to get in and out of. The Vipers use their tour buses or their bus back there, and it's a bit difficult to move around with large vehicles. So we're trying to create a bit more of a circular pattern there to allow a better use and better utilization of that, as well as providing staff parking spots. Because again, when staff show up to work and the place is busy, there's very little parking, and they do have to, at the end of the shift, walk a ways to get to their vehicles. And so this would provide a bit more closer parking in order to allow that to happen. So that kind of highlights what the site modifications are. Next image is really what the building modifications are. So you can see here that there's a proposed double gym being added. There is some staff and office space and certainly change rooms, as well as expanded gymnasium, expanded fitness area on the second floor, and a lengthened indoor walking track, which will kind of span the top around the top of the gymnasium. So that's what's currently being proposed. One of the optional items that is not shown on this diagram is relocating the senior center here. That came out after we've developed this concept, but it's something that we really think we should flush out as part of the ultimate design and as part of the consultation. As council is aware, we were successful in implementing the Seniors Active Living Program at the Vollmer. It's been very popular. Seniors Active Living Program works out of the Vollmer. They do come here and work out of this room with the senior center here. They do things at the event center as well. Some of their activities are actually in the hallway as well. So they might have meet and greets and they're sitting on tables in the hallways. So again, it's not as comfortable as it would be. So certainly as part of this, we would look to relocating the seniors community center here and make it a little bit more efficient from providing programming for seniors with respect to that Seniors Active Living Program. So if that actually works out, the space here at the Civic Center will be recaptured for other uses, and if that does work out, we'll be back to council with a report on what that would look like, what that space would be used for here at the Civic Center. So previous actions with the Vollmer complex, we have applied in 2025 for the Community Sports and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. That's a fund that's put out by the Ontario Ministry of Sports. We were not successful in that last year. That fund provides 50% of a project up to $10 million. When we were not successful, the mayor, Ms. Finero, and myself, we met with the minister, the Ministry of Sport in Ottawa in August of 2025. We got some feedback on our presentation and what was required to be a little bit more successful next time we apply for the grant. Some of the key elements are really looking at providing programming from the youth right up to seniors, and that's something that they really stressed. Another thing that they looked at was shovel ready and being close to shovel ready. And that's the purpose of tonight's report, is to get us to a point where we are close to shovel ready. Not put a shovel in the ground, but be shovel ready. And that's really what we're after. In addition to all of this, in the 2026 Ontario budget, they released $300 million infusion into that same fund. So again, there's going to be opportunities potentially coming forward shortly for that fund, and we want to position ourselves in the best way that we can. So there's a number of recommendations. The first one is to receive the report. The second one is to go out for public consultation. So again, the image you have here, this has been internally developed. We do need to go out to staff. We do need to modify it first, but then go out to staff, go out to the community as well, and seek user feedback. So that's what we're seeking. One of the recommendations is to initiate public consultation. Following public consultation, we'd like to initiate detailed design. And detailed design will take us to drawings and specifications and tenders about 90% ready. So ready to put it out on the street. That's going to give us a couple things. That's going to be one, we're going to know what we're dealing with. Again, soils and foundations out here are pretty troublesome. We need to know what we're up against. We need to know what that total cost is. We need to further refine the cost estimate. There is a high level conceptual cost in here, but that's going to change relative to the detailed design. And really, we can't give you those exact numbers at this time because things may change. And we also want to make sure that the community is giving us the input of the aspects that they want to see. And then a final recommendation with respect to tonight's report is to continue to monitor grants and funds that are available for this type of project. So from a financial impact assessment, again, we are not asking to proceed with anything beyond the detailed design right now. So it should be clear, to carry out that work, it's about $250,000 to carry out the detailed design. There's some foundation and geotechnical work that needs to be done. The architects need to look at this. The engineers need to design footings and foundations and all of that type of stuff. There is no request to go beyond that. Again, we will be back to council when a fund becomes available, when we have a refined construction estimate. Within that plan and within that report, it'll be outlined what the business plan is. How do we fund it? What are the operating costs? All of those things that would come out of this. So again, this is going to be part of a future report. We wouldn't go any further than proceeding with detailed design. So in here, I did provide a bit of a summary. So, sorry, let me back up a little bit. The $250,000 will be funded from the Vollmer Reserve. So the Vollmer Reserve currently has $1.1 million. That was as of December 31st, 2025. So that's what that fund is intended for, capital renewal and expansion. Again, this project falls into a number of funding categories. So DC pays for some of this and things of that nature. So that's really what that future report is going to be. So again, we provided a high-level cost estimate at $33 million to $40 million. The reason why we put this in there was to show why we're asking for $250,000, because without that, there's no reference, and typically consulting fees are a percentage of the construction cost. So this kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. Again, operating and all of that stuff will come forward at a future date with respect to how we move this forward. One thing I did omit from the report was timing. And so, again, we will be working through, again, pending council's decision tonight, if it's approved. We'll be working through public consultation in short order. Again, we want to avoid the months of July and August because those are the summer months and people are not available. So we really want to be out for public consultation in June. So there's going to be some updates to this drawing and start to get some of that public consultation throughout the month of June. Once we get that feedback back, we will then turn into updating the design and moving into detailed design. This actual phase of the work will take us 8 to 12 months. This detailed design will take us about a year to complete. So we won't be back in front of council with a formal business plan to move forward until 2027. So that is really what we're after today. And it's really with respect to getting this project in a position where we're shovel ready and able to move forward and better position ourselves for future grants. And then again, it's going to be sitting there with respect to the future needs. It's been identified as a future need. And again, similar to what we have plans in place with detailed designs completed, ready to go, but we're just waiting for some of those fundings. And those are the things that we like to have sitting ready and available so that when those opportunities come, they're available. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Members of council, Councillor Reno?
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I talk about the report, I'd like to thank two gentlemen in the room the two with the glasses up at the front here, Councillor Burns and Joe, because I believe you were the only two people that were here that got us from all the fights and the meetings and the heartache to build us the Vollmer and to get us to where we are today and to give us recreation and to give us extra ice and to get us soccer fields. There's many people in this room that have built over the years. Things like the Healing Hearts were brought to us. But let me tell you, you two gentlemen helped lead that. So first of all, thank you. Because I'm sure that when the time comes to spend money on this project, it will be as difficult as it was back then. And I don't remember a lot of funding that came forward our way, maybe to fix a road here and there around the Vollmer, but it was a made in LaSalle solution. So thank you for getting us this far. And thank you to the other people in this room that have filled it, that now we can't offer swimming lessons, we can't offer day camps, we can't, because it's full, it's a success because of everybody else in this room. I have heard the story that was repeated by the CAO about that meeting last year where they were told, yeah, it's nice, you've got this little picture and an idea, but that's not a plan. That's not what's going to get you funding. And in the past, when we have had a plan, things like the Front Road sewer project that's going on right now, that's 6 years in the making now. But because we had a plan for all those pump stations and all that, the funding came from the federal government. Big, big money. Because we had a plan to expand our Howard Bouffard district, the funds actually came from the province. Big funds. I would like to think that big funds could come from this, but I can't appreciate that without a plan, they're not going to come. Our people were told straight up, it's just not going to happen without a better plan. I don't think $250,000 is anything to sneeze at, but at the same time, compared to some of the studies that we paid for different things in town that have moved forward, I think it's good money spent. And I do believe that we are going to want help, and that to suggest that we have 33 million or 40 million, I would never approve that right now, or I would never even enter that conversation. But what I would like to do is make sure that if we have a shot at doing this, that we do it right. And I believe that the recommendation is needed, and I would agree with administration that we should be putting money towards a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to maybe Peter could answer this. Peter, when I saw your report, as a research guy, I went online and went to the province's website and found out that 77 projects, 17 new facilities, and the only one I could find was in Kitchener. And Kitchener got 10 million, but again, the council had it shovel ready. These other projects that were funded, are you aware of any other ones where they were? Like I said, I just wanted to see, I wanted to understand the shovel readiness that those councils did. Kitchener brags on their website about their building and what they did and how they had to be shovel ready and ready to get all this done. I want to make sure that when these funds are released, that we are in the running to get, again, just going to Kitchener's website, Kitchener received $10 million for what they're calling the largest sports recreation facility in Canada now. I just want to make sure that we are ready, Peter, and if there's other things that we can do that that other councils have done to be ready to receive, to apply for this funding, love to have you share it with us so that we can bring this to fruition.
Thank you for the question. The intention of the report is to get us to that point. Again, the recommendations are in order to be able to, when we write the next application saying we've completed public consultation and the community is aware of this. We want to say that we are 50% through the design process and we can tender this within 6 months. Or it gives us that type of thing. We may not be ready to tender. We may not, the funding, the grant may come out next month. And at least I can say we have some direction to do this, right? Again, I don't know when those grants come out. So again, those are the difficult things to say. I don't know whether the success of the other projects were shovel ready, tender ready, or things of that nature. Shovel ready means a lot of different things to everybody. In my engineering mind, I like to liken it to I'm ready to build. I'm ready to start digging. I'm ready to at least go out and get prices for it. And it might take me a month to pull the rest of the documents together, but I can turn it around fairly quickly. And again, when I said it, everything's ready to about 90% complete, right? Again, we don't want to do that last 10% because Ontario Building Code might change and all of a sudden we got to update the drawings, and I don't want to get that far. So those are the things that we got to be cautious of. So again, the intention of the report is to position us the best we can for when these funding and grant applications come out, so that we can say that within our applications that we are 6 months away from putting a shovel in the ground. And then this way they know that as part of the grants. And then when they make the announcement of a grant, we can follow it up within short period of time with a groundbreaking ceremony. So those are the things that they really look for.
A subsequent, if I may, to the best of your knowledge, and Peter, if we don't spend the money, explain it to me. If we don't spend the money, we don't have the plans, we're not shovel ready, we can't apply for the grants, and we won't get our chunk to enhance the recreation in this municipality?
We can always apply for the grants. It's just they really prefer the stuff that's ready. And so, again, there's nothing that precludes us from applying the grant unless it excludes municipalities, but this particular fund doesn't. At this point, it doesn't. So we would apply with the same information that we were denied. Again, I liken it to, I've cut this piece of wood 4 times and it's still too short. I don't want to continue doing that. Again, I want to get to a point, we want to get to a point where we are able to produce something a little bit more elaborate, a little bit more detailed, a little bit more information with the next grant application so that it does position us in a better position.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Richo Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. You answered a couple of my questions, but one I did have is the community sports grant. That's an annual thing, so I don't know if this is a Mr. Langlois question, and if so, if we were to apply for that again, is this something that, Mayor, you would be bringing back forward to AMO again? With, like, I know Peter had stated that I could take 8 to 12 months to complete this, but is this something that you would bring forward again to, I don't know if that's a question you can answer right now.
Currently in discussions with the CAO regarding delegations for AMO this
Okay.
summer, trying to determine which ones we should try to get, because even though you apply doesn't mean you get the delegation, but we're currently going through which ones we may want to sit in. We're not sure yet if this makes sense to delegate on again, because we're going to sit there and present the exact same thing we presented last year. And I think they were pretty clear with the direction they gave us about being shovel ready, about ensuring that our proposal shows from being the youngest to the oldest using our facilities. And they also gave us a recommendation of getting letters of support from community organizations to show the health and wellness capacity at the Vollmer and how it affects our residents. So that was something else they had recommended. So this was the first time, I will say, that we've ever received that much feedback. So that was positive, and that helps point us at least in the right direction of what the next step should be.
Thank you. So when the time is right, I am okay with fulfilling this recommendation. With the forecasted growth in the town of LaSalle and with all of our daycares and swim lessons, we're at full capacity, so it only makes sense to go forward with this consultation.
Councillor Segan?
Thank you, Mayor Malash. Bear with me, everybody. I have a couple things to go through here. The first thing, can administration give me a breakdown on what the $250,000 are going to entail between the public consultation and detailed design? Do you have figures, estimated figures? Because there's just a number there, but we don't know what we're buying here, even though we know what the subject material is.
Thank you for the question. The public consultation is a small component of that. Again, it's updating the current drawing, setting up display boards. It's basically some time that we need to spend and collect feedback. Then the bulk of that, I would say a good 80% to 85% of the $250,000 is architectural fees, engineering design, geotechnical reports, all of the studies that are required to do the design, foundation designs, and all of that type of stuff. doing the design to meet the building codes and all of that thing, all of those things that you have to do to obtain a building permit. So really 80% of that is related to architectural and consulting fees and engineering fees. And then the other 20% really covers off some of the public consultation. Again, like I said, the conceptual design, the conceptual sketches will be updated, like I had mentioned. And then it's some time spent with the public at a few public open houses, and some place speak communication and through social media, and then collect the information and then refine it from there.
Okay, so about 200,000 approximately for detail. Is this going to tender?
This was part of JP Thompson's original process. They were the architects engaged with a lot of the work that has occurred and continues to occur at the Vollmer. So they are a consultant that is familiar with the work, and it's basically a continuation of the work. So this was part of what JP Thompson has been working on for us for a while.
Okay, next thing, Mayor Malash. March 2025, the town engaged, from my understanding, Leger, the town of LaSalle residents survey. And most of the items, if you look at the priorities there, are roads and infrastructure, taxes, and then amenities come next. So I'm just wondering how this flows with what the residents are telling us, because certainly one of the things I look for and that I heard from many residents is that we want our infrastructure taken care of first before we do anything else. So I understand that we're not going to have the opportunity to engage in this process if we don't have the first step, according to some of the information that we received here. We need to have a plan ready to go, so shovel ready, as the term was given here. But I'm concerned, like, for the next steps, particularly the operational costs, in other words, that we're going to find out about, staffing, so the impact on the levy as a result. We need to see clearly how this is going to be paid for, the level of debt that's going to be required, what repayment looks like over time, and direct impact on levy and taxes. So if I'm supportive of this next step, it's the next one here that's going to be problematic for me unless we're getting a sufficient amount of funding in order to not impact the residents of LaSalle.
Thank you. So just to comment on that, this would not be coming back to this council. This would definitely be coming back to a future council for consideration. And part of that would encompass everything that you've just asked for regarding funding, operation costs. I believe Mr. Meyer touched on multiple of those points in his opening comments. I know I'm forgetting a few of them, but that would all form the next report to the future council to decide whether to move forward or not. So at this point in time, this council needs to determine if we're willing to spend that 250 to prepare for the possible growth and to prepare for the funding that we would hope to get in order to be able to expand those facilities. And so I don't know if I've addressed all your questions. Did I miss any?
No, I just feel that I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that to the table here, because the residents expect that of an elected official for this town representing their best interest. So I think you've answered my question. So thank you.
Okay, no problem. And I agree with you. And like I said, those are definitely things that are going to be required in a future report, but doesn't necessarily create what we're considering today. Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Reynolds, thank you very much, but there was a great team. Along with that was your dad, I think, was on there as well. Mike Raymond was the mayor who, and Bill Varga was the deputy mayor, and a couple others that I can't recall right now. But the most important thing about the Vollmer Center was we built it without any funding from anybody. From either level of government. I believe we're the only town, municipality in the province of Ontario who has done that. It was very shameful, I believe, of both governments for not supporting us when we put it forward. There was an impact, of course, to the budget. At that time, it was $75 a household. We spent hours and hours listening to people. And again, they were all basically negative. didn't want it, didn't want us to borrow the $20 million. I believe we're in year 18 of that debenture. So in 7 years, what you see is going to be paid for. We had a solid business plan put out by administration. I would expect them to do the same this time. Without the 250, we'll go to Toronto, we'll present, and we'll be told the same thing. Shovel ready came from, I believe it was Premier Harris. He believed in that public-private partnerships. We did that at the Vollmer with the group from Toronto. Some of the failings in the building were not designed in there by Giffords. They were 1.5 years late. We had much better luck with J.P. Thompson, who designed this building. We're a little bit late, but it was on time and under budget. So I believe the administration that we have here, they know the political waves outside. They heard it at budget times. We heard it at budget times. We have to look 3 or 4 years out, and to have all that documentation ready and hand it to somebody, then they will give us money. Without it, we will not get any money, and then we're back to, in 4 years from now, saying to the taxpayers of the town of LaSalle, we want a gym. I know I use the Vollmer. I've never used it till this year. The little bit of fitness I use upstairs is full. The girls in the aerobic classes are being pushed out of their room every time there's a function, and they have to go and hide underneath the steps to do that. It's disgraceful for a community of our size to have these ladies exercising as gentlemen, kids, while walking around looking at what's going on, and we're walking up the stairs to go into the fitness room. The need is there now. I certainly see it. And the staff we have do a great job. But, you know, after 18 years, we've probably grown 10 or 15,000 people to almost 40,000. By the time we build this, we will be over 40,000. And my only question to administration is, when we're looking at this, we can build out this to 60-some thousand people. Let's look at some of the things we want to build in this project that go to build out. Because we've always gone small and we pay for it down the road. The only question I have, I certainly will support this thing, is I want to make sure that the $250,000 does not come out of the reserve fund paid by the users. It comes out of our capital that we put away. If administration can answer that to me, I'd certainly appreciate it, because we do collect money from all our users to pay for repairs and upgrades in that building.
Mr.
Thank you, Your
Langlois?
Worship.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's two funding sources. There's a source that comes from the taxes and then the user fees. Excuse me, since the inception of the Vollmer, it's called the capital replacement charge. I think it's $5 an hour or something like that. So we will make sure we don't take it from that.
Thank you very much, because that was one of the things back in the day that the users were kind of upset with. And I know as a counselor, I promised, and I think council and with our administration, we wouldn't use that except for improvements within the building that they wanted. So thank you for that. And anybody makes a motion, I certainly will concur with this. And the fact that we're not spending $40 million today is the big thing, has been reported on Facebook or wherever. Thank you.
Okay. No other comments? I agree with everything that's been said. I think it's important that we realize just a month ago, we were presented with a really great report showing the usage at the Vollmer and the stats showing us that we are at capacity on almost everything. And knowing the growth that we're expected to have in the Howard Bouffard area, potentially beginning in 2027, 2028, fingers crossed, that is a lot of residents going to come to our area, and we are already at capacity and not able to offer any recreation facilities to anyone new coming to the municipality. And so a big part of our job is to make sure we're planning for the future. And I think it'd be very irresponsible for us not to take this step right now to invest that $250,000 to make a plan for the future. And that's exactly what we're doing, is we're just making a plan for the future. And that will be determined at future councils when the next step will be, when that addition will be, if it will be. And hopefully by then we have some success when it comes to funding from upper levels of government. It's not from lack of trying. We will continue to try. But I think we need this since they made a point to make us aware that this is what they were looking for. So I don't have any more comments. I think everything's been said to this point, so I will leave it to council for what they would like to do at this point. Anybody? Councillor Reno?
I'll move the motion.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Burns. Did you need me to read that out again, or we're good with what Mr. Mara said? Everyone's good? Okay. All in favor? That carries. Item 2 is the Benoit House proposal EOI process, and I will go back to Mr. Mara for that.
Thank you. Switching gears here to the other side of the municipality now. So before you tonight is a proposed process that administration would like to explore for redevelopment of the Benoit House. This is out at the LaSalle Landings. As council is aware, the Benoit House is the house that sits north of the event center. It was purchased in 2020 as part of all the lands consolidated for the LaSalle Landings. Since 2020, the house has sat vacant, and there's a real fear that houses like to be lived in and not stay vacant. And so this has been vacant since 2020, and there's a fear that this house remains vacant. It's going to deteriorate to a point where it's not salvageable. As part of the overall LaSalle Landing vision that council approved, there was intention to saving that house. Community was consultant regarding that. Council of the day wanted to save the house. It is a house that provides some heritage within the aspect of the town of LaSalle. So we do want to try to find a way to save and restore that house. Unfortunately, stuff like that is not something that municipalities specialize in. Again, with respect to what a municipality can do with a heritage house and repurposing it, probably on the lines of a museum. And we have been back and forth. We have done a number of evaluations relative to a museum. A museum would cost capital cost $4 to $6 million to upgrade the house, restore it. And then you have all the operating and things of that. To date, you haven't seen any plans come forward with the Benoit House. And in fact, if you recall the report that I presented back in February regarding the LaSalle Landings, the Benoit House didn't have any budgeting allocated for it. So council has never put forward money for the Benoit House. Again, it was part of the overall vision. It was meant to represent a historic zone within the overall LaSalle Landings, and a whole bunch of various ideas were cited for that process. So through an expression of interest process, we would be looking at going out and seeking a partnership. So this partnership would be something that we would seek from a developer, a builder, or things of that nature, where they would be able to reply to a set of criteria that we put out and say what we expect them to do with a parcel of property, which would include the house. I'm going to share my screen again because we have a couple concepts that I'd like to share with you and just show you what we mean by some of these future works. What is possible. So an expression of interest is a document that we put together. It's something that we would put together internally. It will spell out a whole bunch of criteria for what we would expect to happen with the property. It would be publicly advertised, so it'd be open to people across Canada, across North America to bid on this. And then so within that document, we go through and highlight a number of items or criteria that we would like to see as part of the proposal. So in here, you see a whole bunch of, in my report, there's a whole bunch of bullet points of what we would expect from an expression of interest. It's not an exhaustive list. It's just a list to give you an understanding of what we're looking at. So we would be looking to try to keep the house in some function, restore the house and have it adapted reuse. With respect to what a developer could build, we would expect that as part of this process, we'd expect to have about 2 stories of commercial. We would also look at what a developer might want to do above that second story. Again, we need to be cognizant of a business plan that a developer has to put together in order to make a venture like this profitable. So there may be opportunities to introduce residential units from the 3rd floor up. There may be opportunities to introduce a hotel. Again, it's something that the developers specialize in. So that's really what we would look at them for their expertise. This then allows council to kind of move forward and lead the way of front road revitalization. So in here, you'll see this first image kind of gives you a parameters of what the site might look like. So you can see the blue line, everything's existing to the south of the blue line. So there's that existing parking lot. And then you can see how we developed what the building looks like. So this is the first concept with 2 stories of commercial while they keep the front of the building, the front house as the Benoit House and try to reincorporate it into a new building. I'll go to the next slide. It gives you a bit better image of that. So this kind of shows you, so these 2 parking lots that you see are new parking lots, so there'd be additional parking provided. The Gilmore Way access would need to be done. And those are all things that would be part of the EOI. And so we would put that in as part of the EOI, and developers would look at saying, what can they build for that and what do they expect the town to contribute to? So we would have to understand all of that in order to be able to evaluate. So this is the base 2-story commercial. And then this is where a developer may look at it and say, 2-story commercial is great, but I need to produce something a little bit different. And so certainly there's an opportunity above that to introduce residential, to introduce introduce hotel. Beyond the first 2 floors, again, the existing parking that would be provided at the ground level is probably sufficient. As you go beyond the 2nd floor, we would look to having them installing underground parking. Again, if it's a residential unit, when somebody comes home and the last call before it falls on, they can pull into their underground parking and have a parking spot and not have to worry about it. So again, there is a bit of mix here, but we would be clear when we're out for an expression of interest what the purpose and use of the site is, and a developer would have to understand that. And as part of the agreements, when we do negotiate an agreement, those will all be registered on title with respect to this process. So what does this mean for the town? Again, like I said, the town can be the leader in demonstrating what we expect to see on other private developments along Front Road. The disposition of the Benoit House and some of the property, there's a couple benefits. One through this process, we would be able to save the house, get it restored, and minimize that expense from the LaSalle taxpayers. We take a look at recapturing the value of the land through the expression of interest process. We get reinvestment in the area, creating commercial spaces that the community has been requesting that services this development. And again, once redevelopment is completed, this property then starts to contribute taxes in the assessment base. So there's one additional item with respect to another potential relocation of space here. One of the things that we have been contemplating and really looking at is what is an additional aspect of the town being a community hub with respect to this building. So one of the things that we will look at as part of the EOI as a possibility is relocating the library down to this area. Library relocation, those create community hubs. They're people generator. The event center attracts about 40,000 people. You know, again, some preliminary numbers for the outdoor pool attracts about 7,000 people. The loop through the winter months attract about 12,000 people. Those are all going to be coming to you in reports with some of that information. And we have 20,000 people averaging the daily traffic on the roads. So again, from an economic viability, introducing a library to generate more people down in the area spurs on some of that economic growth and some of that ability for the private sector to see some benefits in redeveloping some of the other areas along Front Road. Should we go up for an EOI and it fails, we'll have to be back to council with what we do with the house. Again, we don't know that it would fail, but certainly as we go through the process, whether we don't get any submissions or we can't negotiate an agreement, it really comes back to council at that point, saying what should we do and what can we do. But certainly from our standpoint, we would be looking at trying to find a successful process through this expression of interest. As I noted in February, we brought you a report with respect to financial implications for the LaSalle Landing, and there has been no money set aside for the Benoit House. So this EOI process gives council an opportunity to explore outside opportunities for public-private partnership. Completing the EOI will be something that's done internally. There is some money required for some additional studies. So we would need to do a bit of, a land appraisal so that when we are out for an EOI, what our expectation is for the land, for the value of the land and the house. We need to do a bit of geotechnical so that there's no surprises with respect. So there's a potential cost of $40,000 to $60,000 for some of those additional studies to obtain. Again, that would be funded from the facility capital reserve. And again, that balance as of December 31st is $7 million. Final acceptance of the EOI. So the EOI is something that will be across departments. So we will be generating that EOI with input from planning, engineering, legal, and strategy engagement with respect to economic development. So that process will be multi-department, and so we can do that internally. When submissions are submitted, they are then evaluated based on criteria that's spelled out right in the expression of interest. So we would be able to evaluate all submissions with respect to what they've submitted, and then we would be back before council if we deem a submission complete and we are able to initiate negotiations with a particular proponent. So council has an opportunity to see the information when it's submitted, and we would be back before council. But this proposal, again, is here in front of you for the process to move forward with this. From a timing perspective, again, we're not back before 2027. We're into late winter into spring of 2027. The intention is we may be out for an expression of interest towards the end of this year, and you've got to give about 2 to 3 months worth of time for a proponent to really put some information together and see what kind of team they want to put together. Because again, these are projects that some developers may be able to do on their own, but some developers may need to find partners, and certainly we would want to give them enough time to be able to put their information together and put together a team and submit an appropriate proposal. So that's the conclusion of my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Reno and then Deputy Mayor Capata.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Peter. Thank you to the whole admin team that put this idea together. I have to admit that one of the most horrifying things that has come out of LaSalle Landing was when we saw the price of a building that had to be removed from the plans that was going to be our warming station and our police station. $2.3 million to put in that one little building. And that has spurred many conversations since then, because people want places to shop. People want places to meet and mingle and to have coffee and to have a bakery. They want these areas. But I really don't know if the way we're going at it will ever get there, honestly. I've had these conversations with the CAO that, these type of partnerships may be necessary because If we're going to dedicate $5 million every 5 years to growing LaSalle Landing, I don't know that we'll get much more than what we have right now. The thought of restoring the Benoit House to its glory is, I think, a wonderful idea. I grew up in LaSalle. I didn't even really know the history of the Benoit House, but in the years since, my dad has told me a lot about it, as he's quite passionate about local history and the shenanigans and the tunnels and the stories of Vitel Benoit are really quite fascinating. And I would like to restore some of that heritage. I just don't know how we can do it. I don't know how we can ever think that we're going to build 10 pads over at the park and rent them out. I think that's best left for the types of people that put together that brand new, wonderful project behind the outlet mall, where we have so much more to offer our residents now than we ever did before. And yes, as a council, we had to do a little work to help push that along. But really, that was somebody who came in with a vision and did a fantastic job. I would hope to think that if we truly went across Canada and we were looking for somebody to partner with, that somebody could find something to do with that land and we could work with them. So, I mean, this is something that's revenue neutral at this point. So, I mean, I think this is a wonderful idea, and I thank administration for taking those extra steps, even to get the pictures that I wouldn't even imagine that we would do something or could do something like that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the Deputy CAO. What I appreciate is preservation of history, right? Very simply. And I harken back this. I joined the Reserve Army in '87. And in '88 in London, the 4RCR Armories began its conversion to the Delta Armories. They saved that building, and it's turned into something that's wonderful. If we knock our history down, we're doomed to forget it. So if there's a way that you can save the building, save the history, meet the requirements with a Triple P partnership to maximize our municipality, create investment, draw people in without spending tax dollars, I'm all in. And like I said, I was just pulled up here. One of the good things or bad things about having a computer is you can pull stuff up. So I've just pulled up the comments in London. In '76, the armories in London was closed, and the Department of National Defense left it to crumble. And I was just reading some of the comments from the people in the newspaper in London in '78, '79, '80 while they were watching it fall apart. I don't want us to get to that stage with our history, and I must applaud you by thinking outside of the box for a Triple P partnership to save our history. I guess my question would be your timeline in your head, sir. If we found once all of the things are done and we find an appropriate private partner that signs on to our vision, how long would you think it may take? And I realize it's a crystal ball type question, but I just was wondering what the timeline would be in your head if everything went smooth as we move through the process.
Thank you. I've been asked that a number of times, and again, my standard answer is there's probably about 8 to 12 months worth of design work and probably 2 years worth of construction work. This involves probably a little bit more delicate construction relative to digging around and being next to a house that we want to save. So I can envision that being a little bit longer. So again, from the time that we find a successful partner, execute an agreement, and move forward, we're probably in the 3 to 3.5 years by the time we see it completed. So again, we're about a year away from even finalizing or opening up EOI. So again, that's the time frame that we're looking at with respect to a building of this type of magnitude and that kind of effort that is probably expected.
And just a supplemental. So just so I understand that the key component here is saving the Benoit House, bringing some of the things that people have asked for to Front Road, and being responsible and going a different route with this Triple P partnership, something that we've to explore if it's even feasible. And like you said, Mr. Marr, if it's not feasible, you have to come back to council with an option to figure out what we're going to do with the house. So is it fair to say this is step one of the best options that you're putting forth to save the Benoit House, engage a community, and do something on Front Road that folks there have been asking for a while.
Yes, this is one of the options, the best option that meets the intent of what has been communicated to date with respect to the Benoit House. Again, that is part of when we went out for that initial public consultation, and the vision that council had of the day was preservation of that. And so this is the best option to moving that forward right now. And once this finalizes and if it's successful, we're good to go. Council gets that final approval before it moves. If it's not good to go, then we do have to come back and figure out what are we doing and how do we do what we might want to do with respect to the Benoit House.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Segan?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Malage, to the Deputy CAO, just a quick question here. Are there is the land suitable for development? Have there been any environmental assessments, et cetera, behind that Benoit House? And if not, who would be responsible to cover that, the cost for that?
So since we took possession of the property, there's been a number of studies that we have already completed. So we've cleared most of the area from an archaeological assessment standpoint. There is no environmental concerns on that property. It's been residential for a while. We've done some preliminary natural heritage work. We've done some preliminary geotechnical work. So we have a lot of that information already, and that's going to feed into the EOI process. One of the things that we probably need is a deep, what I referred to as a deep foundation geotechnical to understand how deep foundations have to go at this location. There would just be, again, I don't want to leave that to a question because that will change the submissions and try to give developers as much information as we can. Don't want to give them all the details, but give them enough information to make some engineering educated guesses relative to what footings and foundations might be. So from this, at this standpoint, most of the lands have been kind of cleared. There is a small pocket in the front of the Benoit House that is left to be untouched. That's why the design is intentionally done in the way it is. From an archaeological standpoint, there's between the front of the house and Front Road, it hasn't been cleared from archaeological. So again, we'll be clear with respect to that in the proposals in the EOI. If a developer wants to go in there, then they'll need to do that work in order to clear that area. But at this point, we've done most of that preliminary clearance of some of those approvals.
Thank you. I was really glad to hear that.
Any other questions or comments? No. Thank you for bringing this forward. I love the idea of trying to move this land forward while not relying on our residents and our tax base to be able to move it forward. And we've heard from people that they want more facilities at our waterfront. They want restaurants, they want cafes, they want all these great things, but that's really not the responsibility of a municipality. But we're supposed to create that environment for people to want to bring that here. And I think that's what we're doing with this, while also acknowledging the fact that the Benoit House has a lot of history. We don't have a ton of properties in the town of LaSalle that I would say are historical to this nature. And I think if we can preserve as much of that as possible, I think we should. I think that's our duty to do that. But I also think that this is a great opportunity for us to be able to accomplish something that really I don't believe we'll be able to do on our own. And so thank you for bringing this forward. I do look forward to this process. I do look forward to being a little bit picky in our EOI wording to ensure that we get exactly what we're looking for down there. And I do believe that if this goes through and we see someone come along and we can come to an agreement with this, if this property does come to fruition the way that we hope it does, that's only going to continue to spur other development along Front Road and other investment into our community from outside sources. So I think we've done the right thing with what we've built so far at LaSalle Landing, but I think be able to get it to that next level, we're going to need the assistance, and this is the best way to do it. So, Mr. Mara?
Sorry, just to build on what you had said is, there is still another parcel of land as part of the LaSalle Landing that's been identified for a mixed-use zone, and that's the area that's currently encumbered by the existing pool, the playground, and the former baseball diamond. Again, that property has been brought forward because we still need those facilities. We still use those facilities on there. So again, this will spur on to some of that stuff. So as you had mentioned, there's really great opportunities that if this becomes successful, we have other lands that are available. And then that just continues to spur on some of that other stuff. But again, some of the existing infrastructure on that area needs to be removed and or relocated before we can make that land available. So this is kind of the first foray into this and kind of continue to build from there.
Thank you for that. I have no other comments. Members of council, do you have a recommendation this evening? The recommendation that's on the report says that the report of the Deputy CAO dated April 10th, 2026, AD-2026-04 regarding the Benoit House proposed EOI process be received, and that council authorizes administration to proceed with issuing a public expression of interest for redevelopment of the Benoit House site at the LaSalle Landing. Moved by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, support. Deputy Mayor Capata, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Item 3 is our approval of development charges, and it goes to our Director of Finance, Mr. Langlois.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. So at the March 10th council meeting, proposed development charge bylaw was brought forward to council for consideration, and they asked administration to come back with a plan to phase it in over a couple of years, the new rates. So we're proposing keeping the current rate until the end of the year, and then phasing 50% in January 1st, 2027, and the remaining 50% in January 1st, 2028. Since March 10th, the federal government and provincial government announced some funding, basically $8.8 million. There's not really too much details at this point, but basically they're looking at municipalities reducing the development charge and potentially receiving some funding to offset that. There's really no details whatsoever at this point in time, not any plan in place. So as more details come out, we'll bring a report back to council kind of outlining what that funding will be and how we could go about potentially receiving some of it. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members of council, any questions? Councillor Renham?
Just a question for administration. Unfortunately, I wasn't here for the development charges presentation. However, I understand what they're needed for. And one of the things is that we've had people that have lived in LaSalle for many, many, many years, and their development charges may have been smaller than what we're proposing here, but they have now started being seen as money that we can use to do good things without having to go back to the tax levy every time. Can you tell me, Dale, if you don't mind, about how much money of development charges are going to be spent on Malden Road alone, and what other types of projects have we used development fees for in the last 5 years, so people can understand why these fees are important and how it saves the current residents from footing the bill for everything.
Absolutely. The best example that I can give, recently last year, we spent $10 million of development charges to pay for our water capacity increase to build out. So we are guaranteed now to have water supplied to us until 75,000 residents. And that's great. That's going to save us a lot of money because we don't have to build our own water plant now. We can rely on Windsor Utility Commission to provide that, and $10 million is a heck of a lot cheaper than constructing a water plant and operating it. So that's a great example there. Malden Road, I don't have that number right in front of me, but that's probably going to be close to about $10 million. I could send an email to you. I can get that exact number for you. But even the report earlier today, if we are successful at getting some grant funding for the gymnasium added onto the Vollmer, a large portion of that is growth related as residents are growing and there's more demand. And eventually we're going to need a third ice pad and that's all growth related. So development charge not only funds road widening, but it also funds recreational growth-related recreational needs, fire needs, police needs, and whatnot. We've also funded some of it recently, last year as well, a portion of the construction of the fire substation, because that's related to growth as well.
Thank you very much. I think that's all really important information to people to understand that this is money that's being avoided from the levy, and this is money that's being spent on positive things in our community.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor?
Quick question through your worship again to Mr. Langlois, and I realize again this is a crystal ball question. I brought up the government of Ontario announcement that has a nice picture of the Premier and the Prime Minister together speaking to this. I would hope that we are in contact with both our provincial and federal partners so that when the rules come out, we are aware, because again, all it's been reported is going to cut development charges by 50%. It doesn't say anything else. And like I said, I hope that you were going to be able to tell me that through your powers with the different folks in the same position that you have across the province of Ontario, that maybe other people in your position have received some information. So all I want to make sure we do is that we don't fall behind. And I know we don't, but I just want to make sure that we reach out to our MP and our MPP to make sure that we are letting them know what we're doing tonight and that we are aware that this is a joint forces project between the province and the federal government. And we want to make sure that we are aware as soon as possible. And I'm sure that that's something you're going to do. Mr. Langlois, if you've spoken to any of your peers and they've given you any insight at all, can you help me understand how this may work? And if you don't have it, I understand it, sir.
I've spoken to a lot of people. Our CAO, he attended a AMO webinar on this as well, and there's no answers whatsoever. So I'm going to continue to ask, but at the beginning there's the announcement, and the rules on how we can get funding will come. And as soon as those rules come out, we're going to go for it, and we'll make sure that we talk to our MP and MPP to make sure if there is any funding that we are successful.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other questions? I too hoped you had more of an answer. The announcement was really vague, and it's unfortunate because we're trying to ensure that growth pays for growth, and this is doing quite the opposite. And as much as they say that there's going to be this fund of money to support housing enabling infrastructure, is it going to be enough to offset what we're losing in DC charge collection? And we used our example during our last meeting of when we waived our DC charges on our condos. That was about $10 million of lost revenue to the municipality for improvement in infrastructure or new infrastructure. So I think it's something we'll definitely have to pay close attention to, because as much as there's money tied to it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be able to replace the full amount that we would lose if we were to reduce them to what's being required. So I look forward to your next report. All right. Recommendation is that the report of the Director of Finance dated April 13th, 2026, FIN-2026-07 regarding development charges be received, and that Council approves a 2-year phase-in approach of the new development charge rates with 50% of the increase effective January 1st, 2027, and the remaining 50% effective January 1st, 2028, and that the corresponding bylaw be approved during the bylaw stage of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Item 4 is our Malden Road reconstruction. Our Director of Public Works, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The report before you is to award a contract for some early works as part of the Malden Road job. The works include widening the large culvert or bridge at the Cahill Drain, and also putting in the large storm outlets into the drain and the first small run of storm sewer. So these works have a bit of an environmental or timing window restrictions. Basically from, I think, mid-July on through into December is our window to do this work. So we're kind of pulling this work out of the main part of the construction and just pulling this separate contract to happen this year. The low bidder is Rudak at just over $1.6 million. I would be available for any questions.
Thank you. Members of council, any question? I think it was pretty straightforward. Maybe a quick update to residents so that they understand that this isn't the closure we spoke of before, but instead that's 2027?
Correct. This is There's no planned closures for this. There might be some lane restrictions at times just when they are having to put that manhole in the road, but this is just to get that early works done. The main work would be tendered later this year or early next year and planned to do next year. Additionally, we're continuing on with utility relocation. So we've probably seen that Enbridge has been out there. Hydro One was recently out there doing some tree removal. Both of those utilities have to come back throughout this year to keep doing work. So we're continuing to push that. It's not the easiest thing, but we're continuing to push that to be done this year so we can get in there next year.
Thank you very much. Okay, recommendation is that the report of the manager of engineering dated April 10th, 2026, PW-2026-19 regarding Malden Road reconstruction early works be received, and that the Malden Road reconstruction Phase 1 contract be awarded for the bid price of $1,624,900 plus HST to Rudak Excavating Incorporated to be funded from Capital Project 20500, Malden Road Design Construction, and that the mayor and town clerk be authorized to execute said contract with Rudak Excavating Incorporated. Moved by Councillor Segan, support by Councillor Deputy Mayor Akpata. Deputy Mayor Akpata, all in favor? And that carries. Item 5 is the Vollmer Pool Wave Generator, and it's our Supervisor of Facilities, Mr. Stichaler.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to actually share my screen just so everyone could understand the equipment that we're talking about tonight. So in February of 2025, this wave generating equipment at the Vollmer Pool suffered a total failure. Upon inspection from our staff, it was deemed that replacing the unit was required as it could not be repaired. It is rather specialty equipment and the manufacturer is no longer in business. So there was an estimated replacement cost of $60,000 and a 6 to 8 month lead time to get that equipment. So after speaking with Culture and Recreation, we've talked to some of our users. We've heard limited feedback on this feature not being available for a year. Already there was limited use of the equipment. So we're basically asking council to allow us to decommission this piece of equipment. And again, this is the equipment that makes waves in the wave pool. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Councillor Renner?
Thank you, Your Worship. I always hate putting people on the spot, but Owen, I won't put you on the spot. So you're saying, you just said to us that we haven't used it for a year. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. Yes, it's been out of service. Yep.
So it's been out of commission for an entire year. Have we seen? I'll look over to this side of the room. Have we seen lower demand of the pool for public swims and things like that? What type of? We talk about fill rates with swimming lessons, which really has nothing to do with this wave generator, but have we seen a drop in public interest in our pool because we haven't had that wave generator?
So thank you for the question, Councillor, through you, Your Worship. In 2024, our drop-in swims totaled 9,919. In 2025, which I'm taking all of 2025 and it broke in February, but to provide you a year-over-year comparison, we were 10,404. So we actually had more people swimming in 2025 than 2024 for drop-in swims.
So people feared the wave. Thank you for your answer.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Burns?
I'm not in favor of decommissioning this. Again, it's if you have an old car and the air condition doesn't work, you get used to it, whether it's 90 or not. But when it's working, you enjoy it. And I think to take for $60,000 to replace it, I think we can replace it. I'm not sure we got the best generator from Giffords back in the day, but it's lasted 18 years, so we'll say it's beyond its time. But this would provide the wave, wouldn't it, in the pool?
That's correct. Yes.
So I know when it came in, everyone used it. I'm sure if it's back, I know that seniors use it to walk against the wave and to help their lower body work as well. I'm not a swimmer, so I don't go in there, but I think it's a feature we have, and I hate to give up a feature. So I would be in favor of replacing this, and however long it takes. Again, it's pools use a lot in the wintertime, so that's my position on it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
So maybe just a clarification, the wave feature is something that we use during, or had used during recreation swims twice a week. So the current potentially that Councillor Burns was speaking of in the lazy river portion is still functioning. So seniors still do water walking. This is the wave feature that would come, be turned on during rec swims to generate large waves kind of going across the pool. So just to clarify.
Thank you. And so because it's just only turned on during rec swims, it's 2 hours a week that was being used.
That's correct. So we have two features. Obviously, we had the wave chamber that we're speaking of now, and we have the slide. So in previous rec swims, we would operate the slide for 15 minutes and then turn the wave chamber on for 15 minutes, then go back to the slide, and we'd alternate the features. With the wave chamber not operating in the past year, we've just strictly left the slide open the entire time. So.
Thank you. And if we were to do as Councillor Burns suggests and repair, where would the funds be used or come from?
Sorry, just in the report there, those 60,000 after discussing with finance, the 60,000 would need to be approved for the facilities reserve or come forward as part of the 2027 budget considerations.
Thank you. So if you weren't looking to make a final decision tonight and you were wanting to possibly replace this, we could refer it to budgets. But if others are in favor of decommissioning, then we could do that tonight as well. I will leave this to council for a decision.
I don't care where the money comes from, but I would be prepared to make a motion that we replace and repair this piece of equipment in our operation. It's up to administration to figure out where the money comes from, whether we refer it to next year's budget, or if they take it out of the stabilization fund, or they take it out of the Vollmer Reserve Capital Fund.
Is that the motion? Just.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna just write that down. Hold on a second. Okay. Does anyone need me to repeat? We do need to repeat the motion?
I'll just make one comment. Thank you, Mr. Burns, for bringing the fact that there are some activities that use the wave pool other than just the kids swimming, that there are some exercise and some benefits to our other residents. And also thank you to Mr. Burns for earlier talking about a fund that was available, a capital fund that's available for things to replace in our Vollmer Center that's already built. I think were his exact words. So that being said, if it's going to be referred back to budgets, it's going to probably come back as a capital item that we'll have the chance to say yay or nay on. Hopefully they have an estimate, a little more exact estimate at that point, and I'll support his motion.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the motion didn't speak directly to budget.
I'm sorry.
It didn't speak directly to budget. So the motion that was put before was that administration repair and find where the funds would come forward, where the funds will be drawn. That's the motion.
Thank you for clarifying that. I'll still support his motion.
Okay, so I've moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor of the repair? And opposed? Motion's defeated. Do I have another motion? Deputy Mayor Capata.
I support this. I'd like to see it referred to budgets for consideration in the next budget year, whether it's going to be replaced or whether it's going to be repaired or replaced.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Capata, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Consent
I
agenda
can't
has,
vote for it and again, and then vote for the recommendation, your worship, sorry.
I didn't,
Point of
I know,
clarification,
I didn't
thank
have
you.
your hand up, don't worry. Consent agenda has 4 items. Is there anything anyone wants to remove and speak to directly? If not, we can approve them all together. There being nothing, moved by Councillor Segan, support. Councillor Richa-Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Committee matters. We have just the County Council highlights from April 1st, 2026. And the recommendations that the County Council highlights dated April 1st, 2026 be received. Any questions or comments? Received by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Any questions or statements by council members? There being, oh, Councillor Burns?
Yeah, just on the county report, I want to commend your, if I understand it properly, both the mayor and the deputy mayor, your worship, and on getting some of these county roads declassified and out of the system. I don't know if that's passed, but it's certainly been a long struggle, both by previous mayors and yourself, and also the reclassification of the connecting link for LaSalle with regards to the parkway. So if that has come to fruition, I want to commend you and Mike for your due diligence to do this, because I know it was, I think, started under past Mayor Ken Antea and past Mayor Mark Bondi. It's been a long time coming for fairness to the residents in LaSalle. So hats off to both of you.
Thank you very much. Mayor McNamara actually made us aware that this was going on since the amalgamation in the 90s. We were unable to get the road rationalization completed all of these years, and the only reason I think we got it across the goal line at this point was from, honestly, the work with our administration. They played a very huge role in working with the county to help them understand our position, and we may not have gotten exactly what we were looking for, but there was definitely some improvements. And I think one of the biggest things that we have to appreciate is that we now have a system in place for determining when a road will become a county road or will it be downgraded, where before we didn't have anything in place. So I think that's one of the things that really was a success coming out of this. But thank you for your kind words. I'm very happy that we were able to get it across the finish line. So thank you. Any other questions or statements? Deputy Mayor?
A quick one, Your Worship. One that I guess personal to me. I missed the last council meeting because I was in Ottawa as a veteran speaking with members of the Canadian government to try to get a young Canadian recognized for the Victoria Cross. Victoria Cross is Canada's highest award and was made Canadian in 1993 and has never been awarded. Jess Larochelle was a private who fought in Afghanistan in 2006 and was awarded Canada's second highest medal. Why this is important to us is I want to make sure that the town of LaSalle goes back through its archives to find the folks that have contributed to our peace, safety, and security, and that we recognize them. And I realize, Your Worship, that the work that's being done on the Remembrance Banner Project is one, and I know that we have a number of projects that are going on, but I just wanted to say that now is the time that the municipality can ensure that those who've done are recognized, as I believe the government of Canada is going to stand up a committee to review awards and designations that military members have received. And I simply want to bring it up here that if we have members from the town of LaSalle or Sandwich or any of the predecessor municipalities that have done something that have received awards, they are eligible for review on this committee that's being stood up. And I believe it's our responsibility as the elected officials, should there be names in the community that need to be brought forward, that we do.
Thank you. No more. You're done.
Thank you. I didn't hear you, but anyways, that's fine. A resident called me at 891 Ream Road, where we did the reconstruction and the drainage, and their lawns are dead. There's 3 homes going east. I don't know if they've been in touch with administration, but when I went out and viewed it to the naked eye, it seems that the catch basins are too high, but I don't know. because the water seems to lie. Catch basin here and the water's here. So I don't know if we've been out and looked at it, but please, if somebody can go and talk with Mr. Patton and the other two residents to the east of him, because their front lawns where we put sod, it's all gone. And I thought it was grubs, but when you pull it up, there's no grubs.
Thank
Thank
you. Yes, we have been in contact with those residents. The timing that this grass is dying is interesting because there was, I think, a full 2 seasons where it was good and it was fine. And this year, all of a sudden it died. So our first thought was maybe it's grubs as well, as that's an issue. But we have been in contact with them. But just to be clear, our stance at the moment is the request is for us to replace all that grass, and we're not recommending doing that. So that was the last we've left it with the residents. I don't believe there's an issue with the catch basins. I'll double check with the group just to make sure that wasn't something. We'll double check that one. That's the first I heard of that. But at the moment, we've kind of made our statement on it as far as their request to replace all the grass, and we've said no, we're not replacing the grass.
Any other questions? We didn't have any closed session to report out this evening, so we'll go into our bylaws. And it's that the following bylaws be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. 2026-026 being a bylaw authorize the execution of an extension agreement with Melinda Munier Bishop and Eric Bishop. 2026-027 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a developer's severance agreement with Jinhu Holdings Incorporated. 2026-028 being a bylaw to assume Reserve Block 185, Plan 12M-414 as part of Fields Court. 2026-029 being a bylaw to provide an exemption from the Retail Business Holidays Act RSO 1990 CR 30 for retail business establishments in the town of LaSalle. 2026-030 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an encroachment agreement between Kyle Lucier, Danielle Lucier, and the town of LaSalle. 2026-031 being a bylaw to impose development charges on certain residential and non-residential development within the town of LaSalle. Moved by Councillor Benoit, support by Councillor Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Our confirmatory bylaw is 2026-032, and that's to be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Segan. All in favor? That carries. Your schedule of meeting is listed below. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a good night.